She made a silent signal to alert the Korean Mafia boss, and the very next moment, everything got changed. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Celestial Grounds Cafe, casting geometric shadows across the polished wood floors. Evelyn Carter, Evie to everyone who knew her, wiped down the espresso machine for the third time that morning, her movements automatic after 4 years of the same routine. 26 years old, English literature degree from the University of Washington gathering metaphorical dust, student loans that would outlive her grandchildren, and a caffeine-stained apron that had become more familiar than her own reflection. This wasn't the life she'd planned. She was supposed to be teaching, maybe writing on the side, doing something that mattered. Instead, she was perfecting latte art for customers who didn't notice, and memorizing orders for regulars who didn't remember her name. "Table 7 needs water," called Jasmine, the other morning server, rushing past with a tray of breakfast sandwiches. "And the guy at 12 keeps staring at you. Like, intensely staring. It's either really romantic or really creepy, and I can't tell which." Evie glanced toward table 12 and felt her stomach do something complicated. The man sitting there was Korean, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, with sharp features and dark eyes that were, indeed, fixed on her with unnerving focus. He'd been coming in every Thursday morning for the past month, always alone initially, always ordered an Americano, 2 shots, no sugar, and always left a tip that was generous without being ostentatious. But today was different. Today he had company. 4 men sat at his table, and Evie had learned to read body language in her years serving everyone from tech bros to street kids. These men moved like predators, controlled, aware, dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with how they dressed or what they ordered. Bodyguards, she'd assumed, or business associates in an industry where business meant something complicated. "Evie, seriously, he's still staring," Jasmine hissed. "Do you know him? Should I be worried? Should we call someone?" "He's just a customer," Evie said, grabbing the water pitcher. But her pulse had kicked up a notch because Jasmine was right. The man was staring, and there was something in his gaze that felt different today. Urgent, maybe, or assessing. She approached table 12 with her professional smile firmly in place, hyper-aware of the weight of 5 sets of eyes tracking her movement. "Good morning, gentlemen. Can I start you off with anything besides coffee?" The man in the charcoal suit, she'd mentally dubbed him Thursday regular weeks ago, met her eyes directly. "The breakfast special, all of us." His voice was deep, accent minimal but present, and his English was too perfect, too controlled, like someone who'd learned the language through effort rather than immersion. "Coming right up." Evie poured water, moving around the table, and that's when she noticed them. 2 men at table 9, just behind Thursday regular. Asian, late 20s, wearing casual clothes that didn't quite hide the tension in their shoulders. They weren't eating, weren't drinking, just sitting, watching, with an intensity that made Evie's crisis intervention training kick in automatically. She'd seen that look before, in domestic violence situations, in stalking cases during her internship at the women's shelter. The look of people waiting for the right moment to act, and they were both watching Thursday regular with a kind of focus that screamed threat. Evie's hand trembled slightly as she filled the last water glass. The 2 men at table 9 had positioned themselves perfectly, directly behind Thursday regular's blind spot, close enough to move quickly, far enough to avoid immediate suspicion. This was bad. This was very bad. And Evie had approximately 30 seconds to decide if she was imagining danger or about to witness something violent in her cafe. She looked at Thursday regular, saw him reviewing something on his phone, completely unaware of the threat behind him. His bodyguards, if that's what they were, faced outward, scanning the room, but missing the 2 men who'd positioned themselves so carefully. Evie made a choice. "Sir," she said, voice steady despite her racing heart, "I forgot to mention, we have a new special roast today. Ethiopian, very bold. I think you'd appreciate it." Thursday. Regular looked up, confusion flickering across his features because he hadn't asked about coffee. His companion shifted, attention sharpening. Evie held his gaze, then deliberately, slowly, raised her right hand, shaped it into a gun, index finger extended, thumb up, 3 fingers curled, and brought it to her temple, pointing backward toward table 9. The universal gesture. Gun, behind you. Thursday. Regular's eyes widened fractionally. His expression didn't change otherwise. No panic, no obvious reaction. But something shifted in his posture. Alert now. Aware. Ethiopian, he said slowly, pulling out his phone. That does sound interesting. Thank you for the recommendation. His fingers moved across the screen. Quick, precise. A text, Evie realized. Calling for backup or alerting the men already with him. I'll bring you a sample, Evie said, keeping her voice light, professional. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she walked away from table 12, hyper-aware of the 2 men at table 9 tracking her movement. Don't react. Don't show fear. Just do your job. She made it to the counter where Jasmine was organizing pastries. Jazz, I need you to do me a favor. Call the back entrance. Tell whoever's managing deliveries to lock it. Right now. What? Why? Just do it. Please. Trust me. Something in Evie's voice must have convinced her because Jasmine nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. Evie grabbed the Ethiopian roast, poured a small sample cup, and turned back toward the dining room. That's when things happened fast. The cafe's front door opened. 4 men entered, Asian, expensive suits, moving with military precision. They didn't look at the menu board or the counter. Their eyes went straight to table 12. Thursday, Regular's men noticed. One stood smoothly, buttoning his jacket in a way that suggested he was armed. Another shifted position, blocking Thursday Regular from the door. And the 2 men at table 9 tensed, hands moving toward their waists. This was about to become a bloodbath in the middle of a Seattle cafe at 9:37 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Excuse me, gentlemen, Evie said loudly, cutting through the tension as she approached table 9 with the coffee sample. I'm so sorry, but we just realized there's an issue with the electrical panel near your table. For safety reasons, we need everyone to move to the other side of the cafe. It was complete bullshit. There was no electrical issue, but her voice carried, clear, authoritative, the tone she'd perfected during crisis intervention training when de-escalating volatile situations. The 2 men at table 9 looked at her, confused and annoyed. One started to protest in accented English. We're fine here. It's not optional, I'm afraid. Evie interrupted firmly. Cafe policy. I can move you to a much better table. By the window, more privacy. She gestured toward the opposite side of the room, away from Thursday Regular, away from the escalating confrontation. For a moment, nobody moved. The tension was so thick Evie could taste it. Metallic, dangerous, the feeling of standing on the edge of violence. Then Thursday Regular spoke, his voice carrying across the space in rapid Korean. Evie didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Stand down. Let it play out. The 4 men who'd entered spread out slightly, surrounding table 9 with casual efficiency that was absolutely not casual. And suddenly the 2 men who'd been watching Thursday Regular found themselves trapped. One reached for his waistband. Thursday Regular's man moved faster, grabbed his wrist, twisted, produced a gun seemingly from nowhere, and pressed it into the man's ribs. All in less than 2 seconds, so smooth most of the other cafe patrons didn't even notice. The second man at table 9 froze, hands slowly rising as another of Thursday Regular's people moved behind him. Everybody stay calm, Thursday Regular said, standing now, voice carrying authority that made even Evie want to obey. He spoke again in Korean, quick, sharp commands, and his men efficiently patted down the 2 threats, removing 2 handguns and what looked like a knife. The entire cafe had gone silent, customers staring, some pulling out phones, others wisely keeping their heads down. Thursday. Regular turned to Evie, and the expression on his face was complex. Gratitude, respect, and something that looked almost like wonder. You saw them. How? Body language, Evie said, proud that her voice only shook slightly. They weren't here to eat. They were here to watch you. And the way they positioned themselves, she gestured. Classic ambush positioning. I used to work crisis intervention. You learn to read rooms. You used to work crisis intervention, and now you serve coffee, he said, and it wasn't a question. Just observation, but it carried weight. Student loans don't pay themselves. Thursday, Regular smiled, genuine warmth breaking through the dangerous intensity. What's your name? Evelyn. Most people call me Evie. Evelyn. He said it carefully like he was memorizing it. My name is Park Jin-woo, and you just saved my life. Before Evie could respond, police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Jin-woo's expression shifted. Calculation, quick decision, making. Take them out the back, he said to his men in English, gesturing to the two would-be attackers. Make sure they understand the message. Then to Evie, I need to go, but I will be back. To thank you properly. He pulled out his wallet, extracted a business card, and pressed it into her hand. Call me, anytime, for anything. You have my word. You are under my protection now. Anyone who helps Park Jin-woo becomes family. Then he was gone, his men efficiently escorting the two threats out through the kitchen exit, while Jin-woo and the four newcomers left through the front, all of them vanishing seconds before two Seattle PD cruisers pulled up outside. Evie stood in the middle of the cafe, business card in her shaking hand, customers erupting into chaos around her, and realized with absolute certainty that her life had just gotten exponentially more complicated. What? Jasmine said, appearing at her elbow. The actual fuck just happened? I think... Evie stared at the card. Embossed letters, phone number, nothing else. Just a name. Park Jin-woo. I think I just made a very powerful friend, or a very dangerous enemy. I honestly can't tell which. Girl, that man looked at you like you hung the moon. That was not enemy territory. That was I'm going to send you flowers and possibly marry you territory. Don't be ridiculous. He was just grateful I warned him about... Evie gestured vaguely at the now empty table 9. Whatever that was an assassination attempt. In our cafe. Holy shit, Evie. That was an actual assassination attempt. And you stopped it by pretending there was an electrical problem. Jasmine's voice pitched higher. We need to talk about your danger assessment skills because this is not normal. The police came in then, asking questions neither Evie nor Jasmine could adequately answer. Yes, there had been a confrontation. No, nobody was hurt. Yes, some men left through the back, but they were gone now. No, they didn't know names or details. It wasn't technically lying. It was just selective truth-telling, which Evie justified by telling herself she was protecting the cafe, protecting the other customers, protecting herself from getting tangled up in whatever world Jin-woo inhabited. But as she gave her statement, Park Jin-woo's business card burned like a brand against her palm, and she couldn't quite convince herself that protection was the only reason she'd kept his identity to herself. The cafe closed early. The owner, Michael Chen, a second-generation Chinese-American who'd built Celestial Grounds from a food truck into a neighborhood institution, sent everyone home with pay after the police finally left. Evie, he said, pulling her aside, what really happened today? She met his eyes, saw the concern there, the worry. Michael was a good boss, fair, kind. He deserved the truth. A regular customer was about to be attacked. I warned him. He handled it. That's all. That's not all? Michael's expression was serious. Evie, I've run this place for 12 years. I know the neighborhood, know the various interests that operate in the international district. That man, Park Jin-woo, he's not just a regular customer. Do you know who he is? No, should I? Michael hesitated, then sighed. He's the head of one of the Korean organized crime families. Young only took over a few years ago when his father died. Reputation for being smart, strategic, less violent than his father but no less dangerous. And now he knows your name. Ice flooded Evie's veins. Organized crime, as in Mafia. As in yes. Evie, you saved his life today. That creates a debt in their world, an obligation, which means... He ran a hand through his graying hair, which means you're going to hear from him again. And when you do, be very, very careful. These aren't people who take no well. I wasn't trying to get involved in anything. I just saw someone in danger and reacted. I know, that's what worries me. Michael's expression was kind but sad. You're a good person, Evie. You see someone hurting, you help. But in their world, kindness gets interpreted as loyalty. Loyalty creates obligations. And obligations? He trailed off, not needing to finish. Evie walked home in a daze, Seattle's gray afternoon pressing down like a weight. Her studio apartment felt smaller than usual when she finally made it inside. Fourth floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades, but it was hers, paid for by coffee stains and forced smiles. She pulled out Jin Woo's business card, studied it in the fading light. Just a name and number. No company, no title, nothing to indicate what he actually did. But Michael's words echoed. Organized crime, mafia, dangerous. She should throw the card away, should forget this morning ever happened, should absolutely, definitely not call a man who apparently ran a criminal empire. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. Evie almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Hello? Evelyn. Jin Woo's voice, warm and somehow intimate despite coming through electronics. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to make sure you were all right after this morning. I'm fine, just processing. That was a lot. It was. And I'm sorry you were exposed to it. Violence is part of my world, but it shouldn't have touched yours. A pause. I owe you a debt, Evelyn. You saved my life. In my culture, in my family's tradition, that creates an obligation I take very seriously. You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what almost no one would do. You saw danger, assessed the situation, and acted to protect someone you didn't know. Most people freeze, or run, or pretend not to see. You're extraordinary. There was that word again. Extraordinary. 2 people in 2 minutes calling her that when she'd spent 4 years feeling decidedly ordinary. I'm just a waitress who reads body language well. That's not extraordinary. You're a crisis intervention specialist serving coffee to pay student loans. Jin Woo corrected gently. That's different. And Evelyn, I'd like to thank you properly. May I take you to dinner? Every rational cell in Evie's brain screamed no. This was a criminal, a dangerous man from a dangerous world. Getting involved would be catastrophically stupid. But another part of her, the part that had been dying slowly under the weight of student loans and shattered dreams, whispered, why not? When was the last time someone had looked at her with genuine interest? When had anyone called her extraordinary and meant it? Just dinner? She heard herself ask. Just dinner. I promise. No business, no danger, no pressure, just a chance to say thank you and to get to know the woman who saw what trained bodyguards missed. I need to think about it. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Evelyn, his voice softened, thank you for today, for seeing, for acting. You're remarkable, and I'd very much like the chance to know you better. He hung up before she could respond, leaving Evie staring at her phone, heart racing, mind spinning with possibilities and warnings in equal measure. She called her best friend Keisha, who'd been her roommate at UW and was now a public defender, drowning in her own impossible cases. Girl, tell me you're calling because you finally quit that cafe and got a real job using your degree. Not exactly. Keisha, I need advice. Hypothetically, if someone saved someone else's life, and that someone else turned out to be, Evie hesitated, involved in organized crime, and he wanted to thank her with dinner. Stop. Stop right there. Evie, please tell me this is actually hypothetical and not about you. Silence. Jesus Christ. Evie, what did you do? So Evie told her. All of it. The signal, the tension, Jin Woo's gratitude, Michael's warning, the phone call asking her to dinner. Okay, Keisha said when she finished. Okay. First of all, that was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid, and I love you and want to kill you simultaneously. Second, you cannot go to dinner with this man. Evie, I work in the legal system. I see what organized crime does to people. It's not romantic. It's not exciting. It's dangerous, violent, and it destroys lives. I know, you're right. I should forget this happened. But you're not going to, are you? Not a question. I don't know. Keisha, when he said I was extraordinary, I felt something I haven't felt in 4 years. Like I mattered. Like I was more than just someone taking orders and pretending to smile. Honey, you matter regardless of what some dangerous man thinks. Do I? Because I don't feel like it. I feel like I'm drowning in debt and dead-end work and watching my life pass by while I wait for things to magically get better. Evie's voice cracked. What if this is my chance for something different? Something that makes me feel alive again? Or something that gets you killed? But Keisha's voice had softened. Look, I get it. I really do. But Evie, promise me, if you do this, if you see him again, keep your eyes open. Don't let attraction blind you to danger. These men are good at making you feel special while using you for their own purposes. I promise, eyes wide open. After they hung up, Evie lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Jin Woo's business card on her nightstand, mind replaying the morning's events on loop. She should throw the card away, should block his number, should put as much distance as possible between herself and Park Jin-woo's dangerous world. But as she finally drifted towards sleep, she couldn't quite convince herself she would. Evie didn't call. For 3 days she didn't call, didn't text, tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice by staying away. Work continued as normal. Customers came and went. The cafe buzzed with gossip about Thursday's incident, but nobody knew the real story except Evie, Jasmine, and Michael. On Sunday afternoon, during the post-brunch lull, Jasmine nudged her. Evie, delivery guy at the door. For you, specifically. Evie looked up to see a young Korean man in a crisp suit holding a large bouquet. Not roses, but sunflowers. Vibrant and impossibly cheerful. He approached the counter directly. Evelyn Carter? That's me. These are for you. He set the sunflowers down, then handed her a small envelope. And this. Have a good day, Miss Carter. He left before she could ask questions, and Evie was left staring at the most beautiful bouquet she'd ever received. The card inside read, in elegant handwriting, sunflowers because they turn toward light. And you reminded me that light still exists in dark places. No pressure, no obligation, just gratitude. Jin-woo. Oh my God, Jasmine breathed, reading over her shoulder. Evie, that's the most romantic thing I've ever seen. Please tell me you're calling him. Please. It's just flowers. It's sunflowers with a poetic note from a gorgeous, powerful man who thinks you're extraordinary. That's not just flowers. That's a declaration. Michael appeared from the back, took one look at the bouquet and sighed. He's persistent. I haven't called him. I didn't encourage this. I know. But Evie, Michael's expression was complicated. In his world, gratitude requires expression. He's not trying to pressure you. He's trying to honor a debt he feels he owes. That's actually respectful in its way. You think I should see him? Evie couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. I think you're going to see him regardless of what I think. So if you're going to do it anyway, do it smart. Keep your guard up. Remember who he is, but also, Michael's voice softened. Also remember that dangerous people can still be good people trapped in bad situations. Judge him by his actions, not just his reputation. That evening, Evie finally texted the number on Jin-woo's card. Thank you for the sunflowers. They're beautiful. His response came within seconds. Not as beautiful as the woman they're for. Have you thought about dinner? Evie stared at her phone for a full minute before typing, one dinner, somewhere public. To say thank you properly, tomorrow night. I know the perfect place. I'll send a car at 7. I can drive myself. I know you can. But please, let me do this properly. It matters to me. Against every bit of common sense, Evie found herself agreeing. Okay. 7 p.m. She immediately called Keisha. I'm doing something stupid. How stupid? Dinner with Jin-woo stupid. A long pause, then, okay. If you're doing this, we're doing it right. Send me all his information. Name, where you're going, when you'll be back. I want check-in texts every hour. And Evie, I love you, but if you end up dead, I'm going to kill you. That doesn't make sense. Neither does dating a crime boss, but here we are. The car that arrived Monday evening was sleek but not ostentatious. A black sedan with a professional driver who opened doors and made polite small talk without being invasive. He drove her to a restaurant in the International District. Small, intimate, the kind of place that clearly catered to those who knew about it rather than advertised. Jin-woo was waiting outside, and Evie's breath caught. He wore a dark suit, perfectly tailored, but it was his expression that arrested her. Genuine pleasure mixed with something that looked like relief. "Evelyn," he said, taking her hand with old-fashioned courtesy. "Thank you for coming. You look beautiful. Thank you for the sunflowers. That was thoughtful. I wanted to get something that matched who you are. Bright, warm, impossible to ignore." He smiled. Roses seemed too obvious. He led her inside, and Evie realized immediately this wasn't a typical restaurant. Private, exclusive, with a single table set in a room that felt more like someone's elegant dining room than a commercial space. "I wanted somewhere we could talk freely," Jin-woo explained, pulling out her chair. "Somewhere you'd feel comfortable." "This is comfortable for you? Private dining rooms and—" Evie gestured at the opulent surroundings. "Whatever this is safety. In my world, public spaces are dangerous. Too many variables, too many threats. Private means controlled." He sat across from her. "But I understand if it makes you uncomfortable. I can take you somewhere more public if you prefer." "No, it's fine. Just different from anything I'm used to." They ordered, Jin-woo clearly familiar with the menu, Evie trying not to feel overwhelmed by options that didn't list prices, and then they were alone with nothing but possibility and tension between them. "Tell me about crisis intervention," Jin-woo said. "How does someone go from that to serving coffee?" So Evie told him about her degree in English lit with a minor in psychology, her passion for helping people in impossible situations, her internships at domestic violence shelters and crisis hotlines, her dreams of working in victim advocacy or counseling. And then reality hit, she said, the familiar bitterness creeping in. "Nonprofit work doesn't pay. I graduated with $60,000 in student loans and job offers that maxed out at $30,000 a year. I couldn't survive on that, couldn't pay rent and loans and still eat. So I took a job at the cafe. Temporary, I told myself. Just until I figured things out. That was 4 years ago." "That was 4 years ago," Evie confirmed. "And now I'm 26, serving coffee, watching my degree collect dust while I pretend I'm okay with it." Jin-woo studied her with those intense dark eyes. "What if you could go back? To crisis intervention, victim advocacy, the work you trained for? Would you?" "In a heartbeat, but that's not realistic. I can't afford to take a pay cut, can't afford more school if I wanted to specialize. I'm stuck." "What if you weren't? What if someone offered you an opportunity to do the work you love at a salary that would let you actually live?" Evie's eyes narrowed. "Is this you offering me a job? Because Jin-woo, I appreciate the gratitude, but I'm not interested in working for," she gestured vaguely, "whatever your organization is. Not for my organization, for a community initiative I'm building, completely separate." He leaned forward, passion entering his voice. "I'm establishing a crisis center in the International District. Resources for immigrant families, domestic violence support, intervention services for at-risk youth. It's legitimate, legal, funded through my family's legal businesses." "Why?" "Because my mother was killed in a domestic violence situation when I was 15. My father," Jin-woo's jaw tightened, "my father was not a good man. He hurt her, controlled her, and one night it went too far. She had nowhere to go, no resources, no one who could help her navigate leaving a powerful, dangerous man. So she stayed, and she died." Pain laced his words, old and deep. Evie felt her heart crack. "I'm so sorry. I took over the family business when my father died 3 years ago. And the first thing I decided, I would build something in my mother's memory. Something that helps people like her. People trapped in impossible situations who need someone to see them and offer a way out." He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. "This is the proposal. The center, the programs, the staffing needs. I need someone to run the crisis intervention department. Someone who understands trauma, who knows how to build trust with vulnerable populations, who sees people the way you saw that thread in the cafe." Evie opened the folder, scanned the details. It was comprehensive, professional, clearly the result of serious planning, and the salary listed made her eyes widen. This is $75,000 a year, plus benefits, education assistance, if you want additional certification, budget to hire your own team. Jinwoo's voice was earnest. I'm not offering this because I want something from you, Evelyn. I'm offering it because you're qualified, because you have the exact skills we need, and because, he paused, because I want good people building this center. People who actually care about helping rather than just collecting a paycheck. And if I say yes, what's the catch? No catch. The center is separate from my other business. Completely legitimate. I won't interfere with your work, won't ask you to compromise your ethics. You'd have complete autonomy in building your department. It was everything Evie had wanted, a chance to use her skills, to make a real difference, to do work that mattered. And the salary would change her life. Pay off loans, save money, actually live instead of just survive. But it came from a man who ran a criminal organization, a man whose world involved violence and danger and operating outside the law. I need to think about it, Evie said carefully. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Evelyn, I want you to know, this isn't manipulation. This isn't me trying to buy your loyalty or compromise you. I saw what you did in that cafe, saw how you read a dangerous situation and acted without hesitation. That's exactly who I need running crisis intervention at this center. The rest, he gestured between them. Whatever this is, or could be, that's completely separate. The job stands regardless. They talked through dinner, 3 courses that Evie barely tasted, too caught up in conversation that ranged from serious to surprisingly funny. Jinwoo had a dry wit that caught her off guard, a vulnerability when talking about his mother that made him seem less dangerous and more human. He told her about taking over the family business at 25, about the impossible balance of honoring his father's legacy while trying to be better than him, about his younger cousins he was raising, about the community that depended on him for protection in ways the legal system couldn't provide. I'm not a good man, he said quietly. My business involves things I'm not proud of. But I'm trying, Evelyn. Trying to transition toward legitimate operations, to build something my mother would have been proud of. The center is part of that, a way to give back to the community that's given my family everything. Why are you telling me all this? Most people would hide the criminal parts. Because I don't want to lie to you. You deserve to know exactly who I am and what I do before you decide anything. About the job, about dinner, about whether you want to know me at all. He met her eyes. I'm dangerous, Evelyn. My world is dangerous. But I promise you, you will always be safe with me. Always. The intensity in his voice made Evie's heart race. This was real. Whatever this was between them, this pull, this attraction, this dangerous possibility, it was real for him too. The evening ended too soon. Jinwoo walked her to the car, and at the door he took her hand gently. Thank you, he said, for coming tonight, for listening, for being exactly who you are. Thank you for dinner, and for the job offer. I'll think about it, seriously. That's all I ask. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles. Evelyn, whatever you decide, about the center, about me, know that I meant everything I said. You're extraordinary, and I'm grateful our paths crossed. The drive home was quiet, Evie's mind spinning. Jinwoo had offered her everything, a chance at meaningful work, financial stability, the possibility of actually using her degree. All she had to do was accept help from a man whose world involved violence and crime. She called Keisha the moment she got home. I'm alive and unharmed, and he offered me a job. Excuse me, what? Running crisis intervention at a community center he's building. $75,000 a year. Complete autonomy. Everything I've ever wanted professionally. Oh, fuck, Evie, that's... Keisha paused. That's actually brilliant manipulation. Give you everything you want so you feel obligated to him, to his world. Or maybe he genuinely wants to build something good and needs someone qualified to run it. Maybe. But honey, be careful. Men like that, they're good at making you feel special while pulling you deeper into their world. Just keep your eyes open, okay? Don't let attraction blind you to danger. But as Evie lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, she wondered if maybe danger wasn't always a bad thing. Maybe sometimes danger came wrapped in opportunity, in the possibility of actually living instead of just surviving. Maybe sometimes you had to risk everything to gain anything. Evie made her decision 3 days later. She called Jin Woo from the cafe during her afternoon break, heart pounding as the phone rang. Evelyn. He sounded pleased, hopeful. I was beginning to think you decided against it. I have conditions. Name them. Complete autonomy over my department. You don't interfere with hiring, protocols, or how I run crisis intervention. Agreed. The center stays completely separate from your criminal operations. No overlap, no using it as a front, no involving my staff in anything illegal. Absolutely, that's non-negotiable for me as well. And us, personally, we keep it professional. No mixing work with whatever this is between us. A pause, then Jin Woo said carefully, I can promise to respect your boundaries, but Evelyn, I can't promise not to want more. I'm drawn to you in ways I haven't been in years, but I'll follow your lead. Professional if that's what you need. It's what I need. For now. Then that's what you'll have. So, do we have an agreement? Evie took a deep breath, thought about 4 years of serving coffee, about dreams deferred and loans mounting, about the possibility of actually making a difference again. We have an agreement. I'll take the job. Jinwoo's relief was audible. Thank you. Evelyn, you won't regret this. I promise. When do I start? Whenever you can. The center opens in 6 weeks. That gives us time to get your department set up, hire staff, develop protocols. Can you give notice at the cafe? I'll tell Michael today. 2 weeks, then I'm yours. A pause waited. I'll hold you to that. They hung up and Evie sat in the back office, staring at her phone, wondering if she'd just made the best decision of her life or signed away her soul. Michael took the news better than expected. You're taking the job with Park Jin-woo. Yes, running crisis intervention at his community center. It's good work, Evie. Legitimate, needed, and honestly, Michael smiled slightly. I think you'll be good for him too. Jin-woo's trying to be better than his father was. Having someone like you in his life might help him actually succeed. I'm just an employee. For now. But that man looks at you like you're the answer to questions he's been asking his whole life. Don't be surprised when just professional becomes complicated. The 2 weeks passed in a blur of training Jasmine to take over her shifts, packing up her locker, saying goodbye to regulars who'd become familiar faces over 4 years. Jin-woo texted occasionally, updates about the center, questions about equipment needs, always professional but with an undercurrent of warmth that made Evie's heart do complicated things. On her last day at Celestial Grounds, Jin-woo came in person. No bodyguards, no entourage. Just him in a simple dark suit, carrying a wrapped package. Your last day, he said, approaching the counter. I wanted to mark the occasion. He handed her the package. Inside was a leather portfolio, expensive and beautiful, with her initials embossed on the front. For your new position, every crisis intervention specialist needs somewhere to keep their plans for changing the world. Evie's throat tightened. Thank you. This is perfect. You start Monday. My assistant will send you all the details. Office location, access codes, everything you need. But Evelyn? He met her eyes. I'm glad you're taking this chance. On the center, on using your skills again, and maybe eventually on me. Jin, woo, I know, professional. I'm respecting that. But I can't help hoping that someday you'll see me as more than just your boss. He left before she could respond, and Evie was left holding a portfolio and a chest full of feelings she had no idea how to process. Monday arrived gray and drizzly, typical Seattle. Evie dressed carefully, professional but not stuffy, approachable but capable, and drove to the address Jin-woo's assistant had sent. The building was in the heart of the International District, newly renovated, beautiful. The lobby directory listed the crisis center on the 3rd floor, and Evie's heart raced as she rode the elevator up. Jin-woo was waiting in what would be her office, corner space with windows overlooking the street, desk already set up, walls painted a soothing gray-blue. Welcome, he said, smile genuine and warm, to your new kingdom. Everything in here is yours to arrange however you want. Budget's in that folder, he gestured to the desk, along with contacts for hiring and the building manager's information for any modifications you need. Evie walked through the space, touching the desk, looking out the windows, and felt something she hadn't in 4 years. Hope. This is incredible. Thank you. You're going to do amazing things here. I know it. Jinwoo moved toward the door. I'll let you settle in. But Evelyn, my office is just down the hall. If you need anything at all, I'm here. He left and Evie stood in her new office, leather portfolio on the empty desk, and let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, taking this risk had been exactly the right choice. The next 6 weeks were a controlled chaos of hiring, training, setting up protocols, and building something from nothing. Evie threw herself into the work with an intensity that surprised even her. Hiring a team of counselors and advocates, developing intake procedures, establishing partnerships with legal aid and housing services. And through it all, Jinwoo was there, not interfering but supporting, approving budgets without question, connecting her with community leaders, making sure she had everything she needed to succeed. But he kept his distance, professional, respectful, never crossing the boundaries Evie had established, which should have been perfect. Instead, it left her constantly aware of him, the way he moved through the building with quiet authority, the respect his people showed him, genuine, not born of fear, the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention, with something that felt like longing. You're falling for him, her assistant Mia observed one afternoon. Young, sharp, with a degree in social work and the kind of directness Evie appreciated. Your boss, the dangerous, gorgeous crime boss. You're totally falling for him. I am not. We're professional. Professional people don't look at each other the way you two do. Like you're both drowning and each other is air. Mia grinned. It's actually kind of beautiful. Also terrifying, given what he is. What he is trying to build something good. This center, these programs, they're going to help people, Mia. Real people who need it. I know. That's why I took this job. But honey, don't confuse admiration for his vision with actual feelings for him. Those are different things. Were they? Evie wasn't sure anymore. She admired what Jinwoo was building, yes, but she also found herself thinking about him constantly, wondering what he did when he wasn't at the center, wanting to know more about the man behind the dangerous reputation. The crisis center officially opened on a Thursday. Deliberately chosen, Jinwoo explained, because Thursday was the day Evie had saved his life. Full circle, he said, standing beside her at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Community leaders, city officials, and families from the neighborhood gathered, all there to celebrate this new resource. Evie gave a speech about the center's mission, about providing help without judgment, about creating safe spaces for those who needed them most. And when she finished, the applause was genuine, warm, filled with hope. Jinwoo caught her afterward, pulled her aside. You were brilliant. Everything I knew you would be. This is your dream, Jinwoo. Your mother's legacy. I'm just helping make it real. You're not just anything. Evelyn, you've built something extraordinary here. And he paused, emotion flickering across his face. I'm grateful for everything, for taking the risk, for trusting me, for being exactly who you are. They stood close in the hallway, alone for a moment, and the air between them felt charged with possibility. Jinwoo, Evie said softly. About keeping things professional. His phone buzzed urgently. He glanced at it and his expression transformed, from warm to ice cold in a heartbeat. I have to go. Emergency. He looked at Evie, conflict clear in his eyes. I'm sorry. We'll talk later. He was gone before she could respond, moving with the deadly purpose she'd seen that first day in the cafe, and Evie was left with the reminder that no matter how much good Jinwoo built, he was still part of a dangerous world. The emergency was a territorial dispute, another organization moving into Jinwoo's area, testing boundaries. Evie learned about it secondhand, through worried whispers from staff who'd heard things from family members connected to the community. For 3 days, Jinwoo didn't come to the center, didn't call, didn't text, and Evie found herself worried in ways that went far beyond professional concern. On the fourth day, he appeared in her office doorway, looking exhausted. Shadows under his eyes, tension in every line of his body, but whole. "Hi," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I disappeared. There was a situation that required my attention. Are you okay?" "I'm alive. That's what matters." He moved into her office, closed the door behind him. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. About my world, about the risks. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because you're becoming important to me, and you deserve to know exactly what that means." Jin Woo sat in the chair across from her desk. "The past 3 days, I was handling a threat to my organization. Rival gang, trying to move into our territory. It got violent. People were hurt, though thankfully no one died." Evie's stomach clenched. "Did you hurt people?" "Yes. Kill anyone?" "No. But I came close, Evelyn. And that's the reality of who I am. When threats arise, I handle them with whatever force is necessary. I'm trying to transition away from this life, but change takes time. And in the meantime," his eyes held hers, "I do terrible things to protect what's mine. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm falling for you, and you need to know exactly who you'd be falling for in return." Jinwoo's voice was raw, honest. "You need to understand that being with me, even just caring about me, puts you at risk, makes you a target for my enemies. And I can protect you, will protect you with everything I have. But I can't promise you'll be completely safe." Evie's heart pounded. "You're falling for me?" "Yes, have been since you made that gun signal in the cafe. You're brave and kind and see people the way I've always wanted to be seen, as more than just what I do, as someone who could be better." He stood, moved closer. "But I won't pressure you. If you want to keep things professional, I'll respect that. If you want me to stay away completely, I'll do that too. Just tell me what you need." Evie stood, closed the distance between them until they were inches apart. "What I need is for you to be honest, always, about who you are, what you do, the dangers. Can you promise me that?" "Yes, complete honesty, no matter how ugly the truth." "Then I need you to know I'm falling for you too. And it terrifies me. Because you're right, you're dangerous. Your world is dangerous, and every logical part of my brain says I should run." She reached up, touched his face. "But I can't seem to run, can't seem to want to. You've given me back my purpose, my dreams, and somehow you've become part of those dreams." Jinwoo's eyes closed, relief and joy washing over his features. "Evelyn!" She kissed him before he could finish, and the world narrowed to just this, his lips on hers, gentle and hungry and perfect. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and for a moment everything else fell away. The danger, the complications, the impossible situation they were in. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Jin-Woo rested his forehead against hers. "I promise," he whispered, "to always be honest, to always protect you, to try every day to be worthy of someone as extraordinary as you. And I promise to see you, really see you, not just the dangerous parts, but the man trying to be better, the man building good things in the middle of impossible circumstances." They stood there holding each other, and Evie knew with absolute certainty that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. But looking at Jin Woo, at the hope and vulnerability in his eyes, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Sometimes the most dangerous choices were also the most worthwhile.